Arizona Cardinals, a little bit of a sleeper team on the rise here this season, going up against the Buffalo Bills, who have some questions to answer after this roster looks so different than it has from years past, specifically last season. So what do you think about this one? What's the matchup that matters for Cardinals Bills?
Yeah, I mean, an obvious one is to take into account Marvin Harrison Jr. and who he's going to be matched up against, which I have to assume is going to be Rasul Douglas on that Bills team. Got to see Rasul with the Packers for the last couple of years before he was traded in the middle of last season. That was a huge hit to the Packer locker room. I think Rasul Douglas went criminally overrated or underrated, I should say. He was 20th in coverage grade among all players with at least 25 targets last season for two different teams. So 5 INTs last year. He did allow 23 first downs, but I think that now that he has the stability and he's more familiar with the scheme and stuff like that, he's going to be a formidable opponent for someone like Marvin Harrison Jr. But Marvin Harrison Jr. is Marvin Harrison Jr. He was the most highly touted wide receiver coming out of this draft class. And the fact that he's going to have Kyler Murray feeding him the ball, this is going to be just really fun to watch, first of all. And I really do think that this game is going to go as that matchup goes entirely.
I think Kyler's going to cook this season. Many
people. I feel like I still need to see it. I don't know. I make the case for me here, Trev, because I'm like, I want it to happen. And I know fantasy owners want it to happen.
So when last time he was fully healthy, it would have been the 2021 season. I get it. It's a long time ago. I get it. But MVP level stuff, his big time throw percentage that season was 8%. That's nuts. Bonkers. And his turnover worthy play percentage was fantastic as well. I think it was barely above 2%. Those are really good numbers, especially when you look at the gap between those two things. He was an MVP player. Now, how he started the next year, that 2022 season, not as strong before he ended up tearing his ACL, misses a bunch of time there, comes back last year. You're getting over the injury. He only played from week 10 on anyways. But this year, I feel like he can hit the ground running again. I'm a big Michael Wilson guy, just as I am a Marvin Harrison Jr. guy. Trey McBride's one of the best receiving tight ends in the game. I like James Conner. I like Trey Benson. Like I want to be in. I really do. I think that this is a team that even last year, when the roster was not good, they played spoiler to some teams, especially early in the season. It gave me some faith in Jonathan Gannon being the head coach. But that kind of gets into the one position that I didn't talk about on the offense and my matchup that matters. It's the Arizona Cardinals offensive line against the Bills defensive line, specifically Paris Johnson Jr., probably going up against Greg Rousseau for a good portion of the game. Paris Johnson Jr., not great to start the year last year. Weeks 1 through 9 had a pass blocking grade of 56.7. Not good. But from week 10 to week 18, which was exactly when Kyler Murray came back, a little bit more chemistry, a little bit more dynamic feel to the offense, 71.4. I think he was one of the best pass blockers on the team, so we love to see that. But Rousseau's been getting better as a pass rusher each year. Pass rush win percentage of 17.8 and 16.0 over these last two seasons, respectively. So that's going to be a major matchup. Which version of Paris Johnson Jr. are we getting against the Bills? Because that's one that's sort of tough for Kyler to get over, no matter how many passing weapons you have to throw to, if you really can't hold on the ball the way that you need to get those guys open. What about a plus factor that you have in this one, though?
Yeah, it's, again, shocker. It's going to be James Cook, because I think that James Cook is going to be the key to the Buffalo offense, at least in the beginning of the season, given the fact that Josh Allen is going to have to get his rapport with young receivers, namely Keon Coleman, make sure that he can be your wide receiver one after both Steph and Gabe Davis are gone. So James Cook, I think also, we didn't give enough credence to what he did last year and the steps he took forward last year, not only in the rushing game where he had over 1,100 yards, but then in the receiving game too. He had another extra 400 yards on, through the air. He had 4 touchdowns, receiving touchdowns versus just 2 rushing. I don't think we've seen the ceiling with James Cook either. And I think that's what we're going to need to see this season, and starting with the Arizona Cardinals, who, by the way, were dead last in run defense grade last year. That's another reason why, like, I'm willing it for the Cardinals, but this has been a tragically bad, especially rush defense. You haven't had much more in pass defense. Like, their defense just hasn't been there and hasn't been reliable to help out the offense. So I think that there's a huge opportunity for James Cook to kind of hit the ground running and take the pressure off of Josh Allen, elevating his receivers immediately. And this is a really good opportunity to do that.
Yeah, you're talking just about the front seven and how they weren't great in run defense. I think my plus factor could have been a matchup that matters. It's Dalton Kincaid, who I think sort of by default now might be like what wide receiver one is for the Buffalo Bills. You mentioned no Gabe Davis, no Stephon Diggs. I think they'll lean on James Cook, like you were mentioning, no matter what. But Keon Coleman wasn't listed with the starters when the official depth chart came out, so people thinking that he was going to hit the ground running as a wide receiver one. I think he'll play plenty, but he just it wasn't that like, yeah, of course he's our top guy. It's Khalil Shakir, obviously like Dalton Kincaid is in there, Dawson Knox is in there as well, but I think Kincaid is going to be the guy that they're going to go to. There's a reason why they drafted him in the first round. And specifically in this matchup, the reason why I think he's a plus factor is because the Cardinals allowed the highest EPA per play last season when their linebackers were covering tight ends. So either they got to do something way different or Dalton Kincaid might eat on Sunday. So that is a plus factor for me looking at that matchup of how the Cardinals specifically tried to play their linebackers against tight ends. If they get caught in that again, I think that Kincaid could hurt him pretty bad.